Ms. Indu Mallah, it's very nice that you have agreed to share your thoughts and memories about Guru Nitya. So I'll begin by saying or asking you, when did you first meet Guru?
It was in 1986.
86.
I remember I had gone to the ashram with Leela Samson's mother, Laila Samson, who already knew Guru. And at that time, I was going through a period of mourning. I had lost my husband. She said, Guru will help you. And when we went to the ashram, Laila touched Guru's feet before speaking, and I did likewise. And we spoke, and generally I remember, and that was my first introduction, and I was impressed by the Gurukulam, and I was happy that there was an ashram close by. I had visited the place earlier, but Guru was not there then, and I didn't know what the ashram stood for, what the Gurukulam, of course, academically, in theory, I know the Gurukula form of education and all that, but this particular Gurukulam, I did not know how it functioned. Then subsequently, again it was with Laila, I went, and Guru came out, and he was very gracious, he spoke to us, and I remember after that he went to his study, and then I said to Laila, I'd like to speak to Guru personally, and she said, go ahead, Guru is very approachable. And willy-nilly, in the course of our conversation, I asked Guru, I said, where is this all-merciful God who inflicts so much suffering on somebody who has not harmed anyone? Then Guru looked at me levelly above his spectacles, and he said, get rid of your convent schoolgirl notions of God and religion, and then come to me. And I was surprised. And then after a minute, he just closed his eyes for a second, and then he said, when you close your eyes against the outer light, you should be able to see the inner light. And then I said, but Guruji, you are at the top of the spiritual ladder, and I'm floundering at the bottom. And he said, I did not reach what you call the top in one leap. And he said, I'm prepared to take you to what you term the top, if you are prepared. I said, certainly, Guruji. And then he said, are you staying for Dhyanam this evening? I wasn't sure, then I hesitantly said yes. And that evening he gave a discourse on the Gita, and somehow he made it relevant without mentioning chapter or verse or anything about my personal life. He made it relevant to my situation. And then after that I started going regularly, and he gave discourses on the Bhagavad Gita. And I remember I was one of the few people who would ask questions. And I said to Guruji, see, the Bhagavad Gita is what the essence of what Krishna has told Arjuna. And I said, how is it relevant to, this was centuries ago, or if, it's all theoretical, academic, how is it relevant to people's, today's world? And then he said, if you attend my discourses regularly, I will show you. And then chapter by chapter, discourse by discourse, he unfolded, and every day he would say something relevant, apart from the discourse, something relevant to my life. And I remember at that time I had met Miyako, and she used to tease me every time you come, Guru gives a special discourse. And and the thing is, I would not take down notes verbatim, like Guru would say, open inverted commas, full stop, close inverted commas. None of that worked for me. I would poise with my pen in midair and just jot on points, and Guru would watch me. And we accepted that. I have a very discerning, discriminating mind, and I have to sift the chaff from the grain, whether it is in reading or a discourse or anything. And I think education does that to all of us. And so this went on, and then after one particular discourse, Guru went into his library, into his study. He picked up a volume of Rumi, and he said, "You take this home with you and you read them." And after that, it could be after every discourse, he would give me a book to come and study at home. And that's it. I didn't look back except for the times I traveled, went out of station. And even when I did, it was mostly to attend national or international conferences. And if it was a literary conference, I would mention this to Guru, and he would lend me books from his very choice library. And I was really honored, and they really helped me in my work. So, well, you asked me one question, and I answered with yes, yeah.
Yeah, because see, we know you as a good poet, a social activist, but especially as a poet. And Guru himself was a very poetical person. So we always wondered that what would be the beautiful relationship between two poetical minded people, the sensibility, the nuances, the appreciations, and the values that two poets could share. And so, do you think you had, a relationship at that level as two people of poetical sensibilities? Or was it just this relationship of a disciple with a guru? Or do you think that you had a relationship which could be even at a more advanced level of poetical sensibilities?
My relationship with Guru was unique in a sense that it wasn't a Guru-Shishya relationship to start with. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but when I touched his feet, that's the second time psychologist that he said, you're not comfortable, I'm not comfortable, namaste is all right. And after that, it was namaste. And it was, I think, Guru made each one of his shishyas feel that they had a unique relationship with him, that he was a multifaceted personality. And yes, the spiritual, the Vedantic aspect was just one strand in our relationship. The poetical one, that was very insightful of you, Vyasaji, to pinpoint that, because this was special. He was an aesthete, as we all know. He was a poet himself, and we've had several poetry readings in the Gurukula. I would be excited about a volume of poetry I had read, say Margaret Atwood, for example. And then he would just swivel his chair and pick out a book, and then he'll say, we would read. And E. Cummings, I remember once, we had a reading, and inevitably there were some other shishyas, either it could have been Wendy or Nancy or Debbie. Some disciple would be there, and we would have a mini poetry reading group over there. And then Guru being Guru, he would say, he'll say, we've had enough food for the soul, now food for the mind, and let's have food for the stomach. And he'll say, have you tasted my mushrooms? No, Guruji. Then he'd come. And we would go to his kitchen, and Guru would cook and serve us. So it was a very, what shall I say, at one level, high level, intellectual kind of rapport, a cultural, literary, if you like, spiritual, if you like. And then at another level, it was a touch of home. It was unique. And then talking of poetry, yes, I've shared this with so many of my friends, and because it's so meaningful to me. I had gone to attend the World Poetry Festival, and I came back with an extra copy of a souvenir. I remember bringing it back for Guru. And then I went up and I gave this to him, and he looked at it and he said, "This is very precious," because it had poems, autographed poems by world-class poets. It was a World Poetry Festival, and the Nobel laureate for last year, Nobel laureate for literature, Thomas Transtromer, he had written a personal message in my copy, and I had interviewed him. So it was a very elevating and it was a very exciting literary experience for me. And then a Guru said, "Why don't we have a poetry festival here?" And then he picked up his personal phone and he rang up Sumadendra Nadig and Vishnu Narayana Nambudri, Siddhalingaya. Only three names come to my mind straight away. They are all Sahitya Academy awardees. And they came, and there were many others. And as it happened in those days, my house was an extension of the Gurukula. And if you remember, the Gurukula was always overflowing with guests and Shishyas. And I would be happy to accommodate his guests. And as it happened, the poets stayed with me. And then early next morning, I made sure that they had their bus, they were ready, and we just had breakfast and coffee, and we went up to the ashram, and then we went into the prayer hall. It was floodlit with TV cameras, and it was full with poets from all over the country. And as we walked into the prayer hall, Guru was on the dais and he said, "Now Indu Mallah will give the keynote address." I could have sunk through the floor, but having come straight from the World Poetry Festival, I spoke spontaneously. And it was all videotaped and all this. And Guru was a man of surprises in that sense, but also he brought out my hidden depths, perhaps, because at that time I went through a period when I was not communicating so much, and he reaffirmed my self-esteem, my self-confidence. So, we've had many poetry readings, and yes, May was the season for the rest of the town. For us, there was a special treat in store at the Gurukula, because Guru would say on the 1st of May, now we will have either a cultural festival, a poetry festival, or an aesthetic festival, a music festival, all of that. And then in the morning he would give a lecture on a topic based on his symphony of values. Supposing it was music, well, he would talk about music, and in the evening we would watch a video, or either there would be a live music performance, or we would watch a video either on Shyama Sastri or Beethoven or Western. Guru was equally at home with Western classical and Indian classical music. Likewise for dance. When it came to dance, it was inevitably a live dance performance. Sometimes the school from the Lawrence School students would come. Other times the children, the daughters of his shishyas, they would come. And I remember once there was this young girl, her name slips my mind. Her parents were very nice people, and because there was no place at the ashram, I had invited them to stay here. And the mother was busy dressing up the daughter. She's a very talented girl, and we became quite close after that. And when we went in there, she danced, and then Guru said, for Bharatanatyam, you should have this kind of, on your feet. This is typical of Kuchipudi, for Bharatanatyam, it should be, this. So he noticed even these minor details. Then the mother said, "Thank you, Guruji, I was in a hurry, I should have remembered." So these details did not escape his eye. And And among others, see, we think watching movies is just entertainment. Guru, as you know, he had a wonderful library of DVDs, and sometimes even after the season, after discourse, he'll say, why don't you stay? I'm going to show this film. One was, I remember, The Promise, and it's a throwback. I mean, when this controversy about the Bengali couple and in Norway, and this tussle between them and the administration about the custody of their children came up, it was a chilling reminder of this movie Guru showed us. So and he would say, at the end of, say, the month of May, he will say, you people will not be the same as you were on the first. And we found that our sensibilities had been honed, our horizons had been widened. I will say this is particularly true of me. And the season, with the flower show and all of the attractions in town, they dwindled into nothing compared to, you see, the riches that were awaiting us, the spiritual and the cultural and the aesthetic feast that was awaiting us here, because there was growth, there was communication at a meaningful level, and it was in an ambience of encouraging one another. The aura was so nurturing.
Yeah, those are very special days. The month of May, the music festival, up to three concerts a day, morning, afternoon, and evening. Yes, philosophically, did you find that you had some growth with after meeting the Guru? Did you find yourself getting deeper in a philosophical dimension also? Did you feel that you could understand life better now? Did you feel that you could see that there are layers and many different paradoxes that life presents to us? And was your encounter with the Guru, did that part of your life also awaken after you had this interaction?
Very definitely. I have said this in a BBC piece. I was invited to do a piece on my personal credo, and I have said this because, to begin with, I think, like most of us convent school educated women, we were free to attend either the catechism classes or the moral science, and those of us who are non-Christians, we chose the moral science, and quite frankly, all that didn't make a dent on me, because there is this heaven and hell and all of this business, and somehow, yes, you attended them because you had to, but it didn't make a dent. And fundamentally, I grew up in a home in which, I think this is typical of most Hindu homes, where the mother is the rituals. She is in charge of the pujas and rituals, and yes, we would attend the pujas, all of that, but I was not a deeply religious person when I was young. And my father, he lived and practiced Khalil Gibran's dictum, your daily life is your temple and your religion. When you enter it, take with it your all, so it's like work is worship. So he was a karma yogi, and he was a very, very good man. And I was more influenced by my father. And then after school, when I went into Christian colleges also, where I studied in Christian colleges, there also we had the option of studying either the scriptures or model philosophy. Now, at that time, I chose model philosophy, and that had an impact on me because we studied comparative philosophy. And I had a very, very good rapport with my lecturers. That awakened my interest in philosophy and the relationship between philosophy and literature, all of this. And I just couldn't have enough, you know. But again, even then I was, having read the Gita, yes, in school I remember we had to study some aspect of it, and my father took me to a guru and got him to explain it, and my exposition, it went off very well, but it did not leave a deep spiritual impact on me. Even in the early days of my marriage, reading the Gita, it did not have a deep impact on me. It was Guru who made it meaningful, and he showed me how. And he said Hinduism does not ask of you an act of faith. You don't have to believe in the Immaculate Conception or the miraculous resurrection or anything like that. You don't have to blindly believe. You can question. And it was a gradual period of growth. And I would put it like this: it was like a spiral staircase. I've often compared my evolvement since I met Guru to Yeats's Jaya. He speaks about the widening Jaya. I don't know if Yeats had the same concept in mind. And he talks about the falconer. I'm not sure the analogy is very apt, but to me, it is like, one is climbing a spiral staircase, and hopefully I'm still evolving. And that I think it was even after Guru passed away. I remember we had, was it Guru Puja, some function there, and I was sitting on the floor and listening to the Swamiji's speech. And then suddenly Swami Tanmaya, he just put a mic in front of me, and she'll say, now Amma will say a few words. I was Indu Mallah for a long time, and then now everybody calls me Amma. I'm comfortable with both. And I said, Swamiji, with all of your learned Swamis here, why are you asking me to say a few words? But you say, whatever comes to your mind. And I said, one thing I'm aware of is the interconnectivity in life and in my life. And, at first I dismissed them as coincidences, but they are happening too often for them to remain coincidences. And I remember Vinaya was sitting there, and he said, Indu, he said, the minute you recognize this interconnectivity or this interconnectedness, you are no longer in samsara, you're in nirvana. Well, I was impressed, but I haven't looked back. It is after that, and it is this, the Gurukula, you see, if it was now, I go to the Ramakrishna mission also, and I respond to the lectures, and some of the speeches are very good, and I have a lot of respect for them, but it is confined to, say, the teachings of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. I respect all that, and that also, is very meaningful to me. But at the Gurukula, possibly because it's a Gurukula ashram, I have written about the Gurukula incidentally, and articles have been published. And Peter Oppenheimer's book, Guru by the by the road. Guru lent me a copy, and I read that, and I started to understand what the Gurukula was all about. And it's not just the philosophical, that aspect. Anyway, coming back to your question, definitely, but I have a very long way to go, and I'm happy to continue to study, to evolve, to interact with the ashram. And yes, my answer to that question would be a very resounding yes.
Yeah, and we know Guru was very fond of gardens, so I think he was very fond of your garden also. So before we ask you to show us around your garden, there's one last question, which is the question of his samadhi. Were you there when his samadhi took place? Or
Yes,
you were
yes.
there? Do you have any impressions to share of that occasion? Or
It was a very emotional period for all of us. It was very traumatic, and it took me all of 5 years to come to terms with Guru's passing away. And I remember at his fifth death anniversary, I was asked to write a piece for the Hindu here, and I said something. I said, in the last 5 years, a pall of gloom had hung all over all of us, but now we are beginning to glimpse Guru's message through the prism of our tears.
Yeah.
And it is true of all of us. Yes, we wept, but after that we all felt it was up to us, his shishyas, to carry his message forward. He would not be happy if we continued to mourn him.
Yeah. Exactly. Thank you very much. That's about it. And I'll get that copy and we'll do another bit later where you can read out your Nityanjali and if you like to. I have a copy.
A copy of the
that
where my Shraddhanjali is. Yes. Actually, I have a copy of Auden's poem, which
Okay.
I had quoted at the end.
Okay.
Yes, that Shraddhanjali, it just poured out of me.
Yeah,
And people were deeply touched, but it was a measure of my relationship with Guru, and it's an irreparable loss, and I have not been able to relate to anybody else in the same way. Anyway, if it is relevant, I will read this. Yes, a few lines from this is from a poem by W.H. Auden, and he says, yes, why then, why there, why thus, we cry, did he die? The heavens are silent. What he was, he was. What he is fated to become depends on us. Remembering his death, how we choose to live will decide its meaning. When a great man dies, lamentation and praise, sorrow and joy are one. This is a glimpse into how life should be lived, and the different layers, as you say. It's not a confining period or a philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely it isn't, but for the sake of questioning, I just need to frame some questions. But we know it's much beyond these kind of categories or compartments. We could never put him in a category or a compartment. But for the sake of dialogue, it's necessary to make some framework. And then we see beyond that framework always.
It was one missed him, and talking about, you have heard so often, how
Yeah, but it's for
it was an extension of the Gurukulam. And once this girl, she was a very talented dancer. Yes, I forget, was her name? And thanking you, let her dance, over here. And, we've had up till midnight, having a repeat performance over here. It was wonderful.
Just let me know if it is.
Okay. Go ahead. Guru would have loved.
Yes, Guru loved walking in my garden, and he would have loved this white and blue bird of paradise. It was not blooming at that time, or maybe I planted it even after his time. But he loved this area. He would like to come and sit here and watch the early morning birds. And he loved my lilies and the red hot pokers and the agapanthus lilies. I've taken several bulbs, and I'm so happy to see them doing so well at the ashram. And Guru would often sit here. He would come in the morning, and early morning, when it was winter time, I would be still in my dressing gown at my writing desk, and I would watch, glimpse Guru with his retinue walking past, and I would hurriedly charge into my dressing room, change into a sari, put on a shawl, and come and greet Guru. And he would give a discourse. We would walk around the garden, admiring the flowers and the birds, listening to the birds. And then we would go in and have breakfast, and Guru would continue with his discourse. And those were memorable days, and people like Debbie and Nancy, they remember them even today. My bird of paradise also was something that Guru loved. I didn't. I don't remember that the red and the white and blue bloomed at that time, but this was in bloom. And unfortunately, there was a double bird of paradise which a friend of mine wanted very badly, and I cut it for her. He loved the bird of paradise. This is being winter, the garden is not in full bloom, but at different times, different flowers would bloom. And Guru, being the aesthete that he was, he appreciated the different flowers at different seasons. And he was particularly fond of my lilies. Well, right now, as you can see, the lilies are not in full bloom, but these Watsonia lilies, he liked very much. They've just finished blooming, and I had a row of white lilies, and he would point them out, and he would say, "Isn't that beautiful?" And as I said, he loved birds too, and we had, and we those days the migratory birds. I've even had this paradise flycatcher, you know, roosting over here, nesting over here for a couple of days on its onward journey. And Guru would come and admire that. There was a special order to that time, to those days. And even now they are part of my very special memories of Guru.